Okay, so this is the Node.js benchmarking meeting for June 7th. Sorry that we're starting a little bit late. It's the first time that I've set up the recording to be in the Node.js YouTube account, and it took me a little bit longer to figure out how to actually get the meeting started. So far we have Gareth Ellis and myself, Michael Dawson. I'm hoping that starting late we haven't missed out some other people who might otherwise have joined, but I think we'll move forward anyway. So I'm just going to start by pulling up the agenda from the issue. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Just give me a second. Okay, so opening up the minutes. So the things that we're going to go through in terms of the agenda, the stand-up. We'll go through the actions from last meeting. We'll review the DCO 1.1 update. Review issue 40, pull request 42, and then we'll go through any of the open issues. So in terms of the roundtable, Gareth, do you want to start?
Yep. So since the last meeting, there's two main bits that I've been looking at. The first one was putting together a Docker file for running Acme Air. I've posted a bit of information about what I've got together so far. Really, I want to also add so it can automatically go and grab a static version of JMeter, and also probably check out a static copy of Acme Air from the repo, just to make sure it's running the same thing each time. I was also going to wait for a response from Brian, who originally raised the issue, just explaining what I'd done so far and to make sure that was going to work with what it was he had in mind. So I might go and mention him again and see if he can come back and sort of confirm or deny whether that's correct. The other thing I've been looking at the last couple of weeks is on and off is how we can better use the benchmarks which come as part of the Node repo. So at the moment there's quite a large number of benchmarks testing all sorts of things. I'm not sure, to be honest, exactly how much they're used. They tend to be more micro benchmarks than full system ones, but I figured if it was something that we could easily put together and start tracking and maybe pulling out key bits, then they could be of use. So I've got a little bit more parsing to do so we can easily go and throw out the numbers that they generate, and also want to see how variable the numbers are if running on a particular, say even a single machine, or maybe we can even try it on the benchmarking machine in the community. Because if the numbers are really variable, then we may have to think again, because we're probably not going to learn too much. But yeah, those are the main things I've been looking at.
Okay, I do know that, there's been some people there's some pull requests to update those benchmarks in a couple of different ways, like the HTTP ones to use
Yeah, seeing that was what led me on to thinking, well, okay, maybe we should be looking at these. I always assumed they were more unit test type things rather than performance test.
Yeah, so I think it's good. It's a good thing that you're doing to go through those and see, because if we can pull out some other key ones, that's certainly one way to get more of the benchmarks that we want to be able to run. Okay, anything else you wanted to call out?
I think those are the main things.
Okay, so not spent too much time, not spent as much time as I'd like on the benchmarks front. this time, but I did do some effort to put together. Last time we got together, we talked about some of the key use cases, so we landed that, and then the other thing that came out of that was we should also identify the key runtime attributes. So I put a little bit of work into that, and that's one of the things hopefully we can review today and push forward. On key runtime attributes, just typing that into the notes. Review later. And, I'm hoping the next step after that is that, we can take those two and start to put together a matrix that says, what do our existing benchmarks run and cover? And then, where is the biggest gap, next biggest gap to try and add some additional benchmarking to cover?
Yep, sounds good.
Sorry, go ahead.
I said sounds good.
Okay. So moving on to the agenda items, so the actions from last meeting. I guess we don't have Ali on, so we'll have to roll this over. I was going to submit the initial PR for the key runtime attributes, which is done. Oops. Done. Still needs to. So done. PR. I'll just write PR submitted. Need to close discussion and let still. Okay. And in terms of the last action, Udom was going to open an issue for the activities he's mentioned. I don't know, Gareth, have you seen that issue? I don't think I have.
No, I'm not seeing anything to do with that.
I'm going to say we're going to roll that over. Okay, so in terms of the next thing in the agenda, one of the things I want to do is review the DCO. So there's been an update, more of a clarification as opposed to a change in the DCO, which is what governs, contributions to the various projects. And, we're being requested that we update that for the for this work group as well. So really, what I wanted was the discussion to say, does anybody have any concerns in us updating the DCO to move to DCO 1.0? Sorry, 1.1. And otherwise, I think we just should do that, just like the rest of the groups are doing.
Yeah, I gave it a quick read, and there didn't seem to be anything that's of concern there.
Okay, so you're okay with that? Concerns. So I'm just taking some notes saying, we all agree there aren't any concerns, we should just upgrade. We should just move up. So I'm going to update our governance, Michael, to update governance to reflect DCO 1.1. All agreed?
Yep.
Okay. Next thing was to review issue 42 or pull request 42, I think. So I'm just going to open that up. Sorry, taking some more notes and putting that into the minutes here, and then I'll open it up. So I'm going to open up now is pull request 42. Okay, so right, in addition to the use cases, it was suggested we have runtime attributes. So that was what was intended to be in this particular document. So I'm just looking at, I think there were some recent comments. So I guess, Gareth, first of all, since you're here, do you have any comments or suggestions outstanding?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I put some comments in a month or so ago, and yeah, the most recent ones from Trevor, they look fairly sensible. I mean, his most recent one saying that application CPU usage or the machine CPU usage at idle. I would imagine that really there we should be talking about the node's CPU usage, because that's what we'd be looking at as a whole. And we want to make sure that if it is idle, we're using as little resource as possible.
Right.
But yeah, we can probably just add a clarification there. His comment about I think was it to do with memory footprint. I'm assuming it was related to, where he said maybe after a few cycles of the event loop. I think really the document is to define the different metrics we'll be looking at, rather than how we would go about measuring them. But I mean, we can possibly reply to it with something to that effect.
Okay,
yeah. Yeah.
So I guess maybe on the benchmark.
Or even to condense, or either add as an extra point, or to sort of condense those, the same memory footprint at key points during the application's lifetime.
Right.
And I suppose, yeah, possibly, because different applications and different tests that we're doing may warrant us wanting to be measuring footprint at different stages.
Right. So
Sorry?
I think that you have memory footprint at startup and memory footprint at load. I guess startup is still, should probably be, you started up, but you haven't done anything, right?
Yeah.
So I guess is load enough of the...
So I think by load, are we not meaning after we've driven? So for example, if we were using Acme Air as an example, it would the at startup would be once we've actually started Acme Air, and after load would be after we've done a throughput run, and we say, right, what's the footprint usage now after it's been serving however many requests a second?
Right. And different depending on the benchmark. I'm not sure what. So maybe we want to say like memory footprint after benchmark load has run. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, yeah, I mean, I say depending on what benchmarks we have running in the future, there could well be different stages of that benchmark that we would want to be checking on the footprint.
Right.
And also, I suppose, looking at how quickly the memory usage drops once the application becomes idle. But yeah, but I say that this document, I think we're wanting it more as these are some of the sorts of metrics that we would be looking for, and how we measure those, and whether we add extra metrics would depend on the scenario or the benchmark that we're actually running.
Yeah. So basically, it's like, so memory footprint after benchmark load has run. After application, so memory footprint after application has run. Maybe I'm just thinking application has run. This will likely be different. Run as run will depend on the specific benchmark. Measured as run will depend on the specific benchmark. Okay, so does that make sense? I said, so maybe if we updated that to say memory footprint after application is run, and then in brackets, when measured has run will depend on the specific benchmark. Actually, maybe just has run will depend on the specific benchmark.
Yeah, I think so. So yeah, how it's run will depend on the benchmark. Yeah.
For example, in Acme Air, it's after the transactions have been driven, or in the case of reading files, to mention actually, maybe the right thing is what he's got there in the wording is to maybe memory footprint after load metrics have been, memory footprint after load metrics are collected. Kind of like that. And we can say timing will depend on the specific benchmark. Okay, so commented on those two. So yeah, so I will go ahead and make one more update, and subject to Trevor's comments, hopefully we can land that and then use that as going forward.
Okay, good.
I'm good. Okay, then the next thing on the agenda is to basically go through the open issues. So let's open up those issues. I'm just going to open that up. Okay, let's see what new issues we have. So Acme Air Easy benchmarking setup. So I think that's the one you mentioned before, right? Talking about
Docker.
Docker.
Yep. So that's in progress. I suppose I could assign it to myself.
Yeah, that's probably. Next is the version of 6.
Yeah, I posted a sort of bump to it last week, I think it was, which he said he's been quite busy and he's going to come back at a later date with some more information.
Okay. Sounds good. So we're just waiting on an answer on that one. Add release dates to charts. So I think that one is, we haven't done that, but I don't think anything's changed in terms of, still is a reasonable request. Just need time and effort to be able to do that. Sorry, I'm just going back to the issues. Feature request benchmark data, capture commit hash. Again, haven't done that. I think that was your suggestion, Gareth, which I think awesome.
Yep. I mean, I could have a look at the scripts, I suppose, really, at least to start collecting it, even if we don't expose it publicly straight away. It shouldn't be too much work to just go and save it away somewhere.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea. Although I think, yeah, we pull. It's yeah. I mean, all we need to do is update the job to pull that, to get that, and then pass it into the right scripts. Yeah. If you want to take a look, that would be great. I'm just looking at the next issue, number 25. This is Michael Paulsen. I don't think there's any new discussion on this. February 24th, so I don't think there's any new discussion since the last issue. Okay, so I'm going to go back. Sorry. Track startup speed. So I guess this one, there was still some, I haven't closed that because there was some discussion. You know, we are tracking startup speed, but there's some discussion on tracking different versions of it. But I haven't had any time to make progress on, you know, looking at a different version or whatever to see if that makes sense. Regressions in V4 Kraken.js bench. So Gareth, I think you were looking at that one.
Yeah, that's the one where we're waiting for Ali to come back with some insight into the hydrogen.
Right, okay. 17 events benchmark tests. So I think this is one where some additional things were added to the regular benchmarks, or actually things hadn't landed in the benchmarks, but they were one. It was a pull request to add some new ones. So again, I think we can look at that in the context of what you were saying you were doing, and looking at the overall benchmark jobs to see if there's anything else we can pull out.
Yeah.
Benchmarks for V8. This is around giving them some benchmarks. You know, I think we're still not quite at the point where we have our own story ironed out well enough to do that. Benchmarking dependencies. Some discussion on things there. Preparing the benchmark for those with the upcoming Node.js API. So I guess this is, you know, I know I'm working with Stefan and Ian Halliday on the API, and we certainly will be looking at performance as part of that. So maybe some benchmarks will come out of that. So I'll leave that open for now. Micro benchmarks and candidate benchmarks. So those are again to identify, you know, benchmarks, additional benchmarks we may want to be running. You know, my current plan and goal is to work through those based on, okay, once we have the use cases and once we have the key attributes, to then put together a table that says, you know, what do we have that covers each of those, and then try and work through that. So I think that covers the last two items. I think I'll use that as an opportunity for anybody who's listening in or who watches it later to say, you know, we are still looking for, you know, people to participate in, you know, looking at those use cases, looking at those key attributes, and then coming up with additional benchmarks, either finding ones that exist and suggesting we use them, or building the benchmarks. So if anybody's interested, you know, let us know through an issue or join the next meeting, or, you know, just say we're definitely looking for additional participants to help push this work forward. So I think that's going through all the open issues. I'm going to flip back to the overall agenda. So we've done that. We've reviewed open issues. In terms of actions for the next meeting, so far I have Michael to update DCO to 1.1. We have the two that were rolled over from the previous, so I'm just going to paste those in. Gareth, did we have any other actions I should have?
No, not specifically. I suppose apart from, well, I'll carry on looking at the Docker file thing, but I don't know if that needs to be in action or not.
I think we have. That's probably fine. Okay, and I'll set the next meeting for 3 to 4 weeks from now. Didn't get a great turnout in terms of the last doodle, so I don't know, you know, maybe I'll try and reach out to some of the people just to see if it's a matter of the timing or what. To see if we can round up some more people for the next meeting. But otherwise, I think, Gareth, is there anything else you think we should talk about?
Not for me, no.
Okay. Well, I'll call that for this meeting. And again, you know, for people watching, I will call out, you know, we do want to be able to, you know, basically create that table that says, here's our use cases, here's our key attributes, and then fill in benchmarks to cover those so that we identify regressions and can sort of identify, you know, areas that we've improved from release to release. So if anybody else wants to get involved, just let us know, and there'll be lots of work in putting together those different benchmarks. Otherwise, I guess we'll close the meeting for today, and we'll talk to everybody again later. Thanks. Okay.
Okay, cheers.
Bye-bye.